Hey, deep divers, smash that like button and don't forget to subscribe because tonight we're going deep, really deep into the mind of Bill Maher just a couple days before the election.
Oh, talk about a pressure cooker. Friday night, November 2nd, 2024, and things are getting seriously intense.
Intense might not even cut it, but we're going to try. We're unpacking an article published just this morning by Mauricio Alencar. It's all about Maher's latest real-time monologue, and he makes a last-minute plea to voters.
You know, Maher always seems to have a way of cutting through the noise, even when it means ruffling a few feathers along the way.
Oh, he definitely does not hold back this time. Okay, so get this. He compares undecided voters to, get this, Christmas Eve shoppers. And then he tackles this whole woke mind virus thing head on.
Okay, I'm hooked already. So what's the big takeaway? What's Maher saying just days before the election?
Well, he comes out swinging, that's for sure.
Yeah.
He's urging viewers to vote for Kamala Harris.
Huh. Interesting. He hasn't exactly been her biggest fan in the past, has he?
Not exactly. He even says, he admits that he doesn't love everything about her. But his reasoning, it all boils down to this. Trump is still a really great reason.
Right. I mean, that really gets to the heart of the dilemma that so many voters face, right? It's this whole lesser of two evils argument. Is it enough to just vote against somebody? Or should we be inspired by our candidate's vision? It's something I bet a lot of you out there listening are wrestling with right now.
Yeah. Yeah, no, it's a real struggle. And Maher, he definitely seems to be grappling with it too. But he doesn't shy away from those tough questions. He goes straight for those undecided voters, and let me tell you, he does not mince words.
Oh, I bet.
He calls them, wait for it, the bisexuals of the political world.
Oh,
Because they just can't seem to pick a side.
that's classic Maher, though, right? I mean, using humor to kind of drive home a point, even if it is a bit, well, maybe a bit provocative.
Yeah, a little provocative. He definitely has a knack for that. But then he takes it even further. He compares these last-minute deciders to, like, Christmas Eve shoppers. The ones frantically running around, scrambling to buy gifts at the last minute.
Yeah.
He even tells this, hilarious story, an anecdote, about his own dad, who apparently waited until Christmas Eve every single year to do all of his shopping, just wandering around clueless, in some department store.
Well, that image is pretty funny. It does kind of highlight a very real concern, that Maher is raising. These undecided voters, they could have a huge impact on the election.
Oh, for sure. For
Okay.
sure. They hold a lot of power.
Yeah, they really do.
Yeah. The stakes they're incredibly high. And Maher, he knows it.
Huh.
But he doesn't just poke fun at the undecided voters, He also acknowledges that they have, they have some genuine concerns about a potential Harris administration, particularly when it comes to the woke mind virus, something we hear thrown around quite a bit these days.
So what exactly does Maher mean by woke mind virus? Does he actually define it?
That's a great question, and to be honest, he doesn't explicitly define it, but based on his comments, it seems like he's referencing this idea that some aspects of liberal ideology have just become excessively focused on social justice issues. Maybe to the point where they're losing touch with, common sense and pragmatism.
Yeah, so it sounds like he's tapping into, a broader anxiety that some voters are feeling, this disconnect between, the progressive agenda and the everyday realities of their lives.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. And he even brings up this term progressiphobia
Mm-hmm.
in relation to the woke mind virus. Did I pronounce that right?
You got it, progressiphobia.
Okay.
It's it's a term coined by Steven Pinker, and it refers to the fear of acknowledging progress. So basically, it suggests that some people are so fixated on the problems that they fail to see the positive developments that are happening all around them.
So is Maher saying that Democrats are kind of falling into this trap?
He definitely seems to think so. He argues that Democrats they're so focused on addressing these, perceived injustices that they're failing to celebrate the very real progress that has been made, especially when it comes to, the economy.
And to support his point, he pulls out some pretty compelling statistics. He points to the low unemployment rate, currently at 4%, and the high GDP per capita, which stands at a whopping $85,000.
Yeah, so he's directly challenging that narrative you hear so often, especially from certain political groups, that the economy's a disaster. Maher's basically saying, "Hey, look at the data. Things are actually, things are pretty good."
Yeah, and he does it in such a vivid way. I mean, he actually compares Biden taming inflation
Mhm.
without a recession to, wait for it, catching a SpaceX rocket with your butt cheeks.
Oh,
I mean, talk about a memorable image.
he certainly knows how to make a point stick. But what's really interesting here is that Maher seems to be suggesting that Democrats might actually be hurting themselves politically by not focusing enough on these positive economic developments.
Yeah.
And maybe they're worried about appearing insensitive to those who are still struggling, but in doing so, they're missing an opportunity to really connect with voters on a fundamental level.
It makes you wonder, right? Are we as a society, are we too quick to focus on the negative and overlook the positive? Something for all of you deep divers out there to ponder.
It's a question worth considering. So welcome back to our deep dive into Bill Maher's mind. Just days before the election, it's really fascinating, how Maher links his concerns about this whole woke mind virus with his surprisingly optimistic view of the economy.
Yeah, yeah. I was wondering about that too. It almost seems like he's drawing a parallel between the two.
Yeah.
Suggesting that maybe we're so focused on these perceived problems that we're kind of missing the bigger picture.
Yeah.
Both socially and economically.
Yeah, exactly. He's basically pointing out that we have this tendency to fixate on the negative, even when the data suggests otherwise. Remember that term progressivophobia we talked about earlier. It applies here too. Just like some people are resistant to acknowledging social progress, they're also they're also really quick to just latch onto these negative economic narratives, even when the numbers tell a different story.
So is Maher saying we should just ignore the real struggles that people are facing
Yeah.
and just pretend everything's
Yeah.
everything's perfect?
No, no, not at all. He acknowledges that there are people out there who are struggling, but he's urging us to kind of look beyond just the doom and gloom and recognize the positive developments as well. It's about having a more balanced perspective.
So it's like he's saying, yes, we need to address the issues, but let's also acknowledge the progress that we've made.
Precisely. And this is where it gets really interesting. Maher even suggests that this negativity bias, this tendency to just focus on the negative, it might actually be hurting the Democrats politically.
How so?
Well, think about it. If Democrats are constantly focusing on problems, even when things are objectively, improving, they risk coming across as out of touch, out of touch with the reality that many voters are actually experiencing. They're not giving people a reason to be excited about the future, a vision to rally behind.
And meanwhile, you have other political groups that are capitalizing on that negativity, right?
Yeah.
They're painting a very different picture, even if it's not entirely accurate.
Exactly. Maher is basically saying that Democrats need to get better at communicating their successes, at highlighting the positive impacts of their policies. Otherwise, they risk losing ground to those who are more adept at spinning, a compelling narrative, even if it's not really grounded in reality.
Maher makes a pretty bold prediction about the election too. Remember, all of this is happening just days before Americans head to the polls.
Right, right. He says I'm sticking with my other prediction that Harris is going to win. But even though he's predicting a victory for Harris, he's clearly still anxious about those undecided voters. He knows they could make all the difference.
It's like he's saying, look, I think things are heading in the right direction, but it's not a done deal. Those last minute decisions could completely change the outcome.
And you know what? I think Maher's message, it goes beyond just this particular election.
Yeah.
He's challenging all of us to be more informed, more nuanced in our thinking. Not just about politics, but about life in general.
Yeah. He's calling for critical thinking, for questioning narratives, and for forming our own opinions based on facts and evidence rather than fear or blind allegiance.
It's a powerful message for sure. But what do you think about all this?
What?
Do you agree with Mar that we have a tendency to be overly negative, to overlook progress? We want to hear your thoughts. Let's keep the conversation going in the comments.
And don't forget to hit that like button and subscribe to the deep dive for more insightful explorations of the topics that matter most. We'll be back with the final part of our deep dive into Bill Maher's pre-election monologue after a quick break.
And we are back for the third and final part of our deep dive. Where we're exploring Bill Maher's pre-election monologue, and he really challenged us, to think critically about the narratives that we're constantly being fed, especially during such a heated election season.
Yeah, it's so easy to just get swept up in all the negativity and the fear mongering, the just constant barrage of information.
Right.
But Mar, he reminds us that we do have a choice. We can choose to just be passive consumers of that information, or we can choose to be active, engaged citizens. The kind of people who actually question things and analyze and form our own conclusions. Yeah, he's really calling us to be more discerning, more thoughtful in the way we approach not just politics, but really every aspect of our lives. It's about taking ownership of our beliefs and not letting ourselves just be manipulated by fear or tribalism.
And one of the most powerful ways to do that, to really take ownership, is to just be aware of our own biases, right? Like we talked about earlier, that negativity bias. It's a powerful force. It's wired into our brains, but recognizing it, understanding how it can actually influence our perception.
Right.
That's the first step towards overcoming it.
Maher's monologue, it wasn't just about pointing fingers at the woke mind virus or even celebrating economic successes. It was about encouraging us, to think for ourselves, to look beyond the headlines and to dig into the data and to form our own opinions.
He's reminding us that we have agency. We don't have to just accept the narratives that we're given, right? We can challenge them. We can demand better, and most importantly, we can use our voices and our votes to shape the world that we want to live in.
So, deep divers, as you head to the polls next week, or maybe you've already voted early, just remember what we've talked about today. Don't let fear or anger or even blind loyalty dictate your choices. Inform yourself. Engage in thoughtful discussions and cast your vote with intention, knowing that you're playing an active role in shaping the future.
It's true. Your vote is your voice. So make it count.
Well, that brings us to the end of our deep dive into the mind of Bill Maher. We hope you found this exploration, thought-provoking and maybe even a little bit inspiring. Remember, critical thinking, it's a muscle.
It is.
The more we use it, the stronger it gets.
So keep those conversations going. Keep questioning things, keep learning, and most importantly, keep diving deep.
And don't forget to like and subscribe and hit that notification bell so you don't miss any future deep dives. And be sure to let us know your thoughts on Bill Maher's monologue in the comments below. We'd love to hear from you.
Thanks for joining us. Until next time, stay curious.